What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new Robbie Basel show episode. Appreciate you all being with me here today. It's a gorgeous day outside here, outside of my dorm room in New Rochelle. Quick notes for before we get started. We're talking Premier League, NFL, MLB, and we'll recap the Formula One race. And as I get all my items loaded for today on my phone because my iPad is dead. Quick notes. With the first of all, thank you for everyone who's tuned into the shows recently. It's been great to get a little bit more viewership on this channel, even though it's still not a lot. A like and subscribe. You don't have to do it, but it'll be really cool for me at least. Keep me motivated. I love doing this, even if the viewership count is low or the the subscriber count's low, and it's been low since ever since we started. I've started this channel, but I continue to do this journey. It's almost been a year and a half. We're closing in on a year and a half. That'll be in December, or no, that'll be in November. Will be a year and a half of this channel, but I'm still trying to like figure out new ways to change things that might need to be changed or do some different stuff. You know what I'm saying? I said last video, a new intro song, a new intro is coming. That is slightly delayed, and it might be like a week till we do that. I don't want to say you'll have to wait a couple of weeks because I might know what the song is. I just don't have the time on my school schedule to edit it with like everything else going on. So it might be a bit. It's not going to be like this because the real ones would know. If you watch the Premier League preview from last year, we had a different song. It Takes Two. I want to do that one again, but I might change it. I might use that one again. I don't know because it has like my name in it and it kind of like works. I might change the logo. I said there was going to be a rebrand. I don't think it's going to happen anymore. I don't really see the need for it at this time. It could happen in the future. I could do like other things on the Instagram. So check out the handle for the Instagram in the description. That might be something where I like go over some stuff. I know if I get another play-by-play opportunity for ESPN within the next couple of weeks, there might be another Instagram account launched, which would see all of my from previous from the speak from throughout the year, my opportunities back in May, and then recently I would like clip all of my best stuff and put it into like one or two Instagram posts and just start posting my stuff from games there. I think that is a very big possibility. I've always been intrigued with that idea of making a broadcasting Instagram account, maybe even a broadcast YouTube, so I could post my stuff here as well, and I'd be able to. I would be running multiple YouTubes, but it's something that I might do. I might do breakdowns or something on another. I don't know because I've wanted to do breakdowns. I just haven't found the best way to do it. And the Robbie Basel Show Instagram account might be the way, but I just don't know. Um, I think this week especially, there's a good shout that I might do one for this video. That would go live on Wednesday, or at the earliest on Wednesday. So make sure to check out the Instagram for all that stuff. Also, apologies after the highly promoted stuff for the Empire Sports Media Game of the Week and how it turned out. I apologize that it was a total and utter mess from the get-go and everything. It was a complete. I'll word it like this: I'm gonna get demonetized, but I don't really care. It was a shit show, and it's partially on me. It's partially on. I think there's a lot of different factors that went into it. Essentially, what happened was my audio plus my TV buffering a lot, plus Iona's Wi-Fi being down briefly, plus a boring game, all morphed into the broadcast ending at halftime. I was devastated. I'll be honest, and I'll word it like this, and I'll stop rambling about this so we can get into all of the talks for today. I've never been that frustrated after a broadcast in my entire career. Never. There have been some really low moments. Um, those who would know, I'm actually gonna bring this up. Those who knew for remember my women's lacrosse game, the when I was color commentary for it, I that was the lowest I've been after a broadcast. This is a new low. So, but I've learned. I think my commentating wasn't terrible, wasn't great. I've never done football before. I could talk about football for days. And that's what we're doing in a little bit on this in this video. But it just nothing went right. And what's cool about it all is that you can't go any lower from that. So we'll see. I know there's going to be two Empire Sports media games of the week. I don't know what my future holds with that, and I'll word it like this because I actually do have one more announcement for tomorrow for the day that this video goes up. Um, I don't know what my future with them is gonna look like because my TV will always be delayed. That's just the way it is. It sucks. So you maybe there's a good chance you might see me a little less often. And with the way JJ was talking to me about it, this might be just me overthinking or me not understanding what he was talking about correctly. There's a good chance I am less featured due to the technical issues that I've had almost every game I've been with them. So it's a wait and see. Um, maybe he does more with Jack or with Jacob and all of the other guys, which I wouldn't be again. I don't have any hatred towards JJ. We talk all the time. Um, but yeah, it's the Empire Sports Media stuff. No word on the future of that yet. I'm not going to comment if I'm doing a game on Sunday. I probably are not doing the game on Sunday anymore. Um, just because of my ESPN schedule for the weekend is I have games on both days, and it's a lot to set up and take down and do everything. So I'm not going to comment on that stuff. Finally, tomorrow, the day this is going live, this should be going live in the morning on Tuesday morning. That's the plan at least, or Monday night. Who the hell knows? Because we're not talking about the Monday night football games because so this video is getting filmed on Monday afternoon after multiple attempts. First video of Ball Knowers is today at 1 o'clock. The problem is I'm not going to be on the full video today. Yeah, I know. This is turning into a complete mess. I got asked by someone to help out with the production and filming of it, I believe an interview in the TV studio. I don't even know what it's for. I don't even know what's gonna happen. So yeah, that is also the day of production, and I have to be there early. And I just have to like clarify a couple of details. So you'll at least see me for the first half of the video. The second half will probably be just Luke and Cam. We'll talk about Giants, Jets, Mets series, which we're also going to preview here. And maybe the preview go over the Rangers preseason game that I didn't even bother thinking about. But I've gone on this spiel for like 8.5, 9 minutes. So I'm going to shut up and we're going to talk soccer, Premier League, all the madness. We'll start with Saturday's fixtures, and I will pull up the correct list of games. One other note, I will be doing an international break preview. That video is in, I believe, 2 weeks. So we still got a little bit before we do the next uh preview video, which it's gonna be madness. I'm very excited for it because there's a lot that can happen. If you've watched the last video, you know what I'm talking about. So let's go over Saturday's games. Starting us off, we had West Ham and Chelsea. And, well, I said this was going to be a draw, and Chelsea went out and dominated. Nicholas Jackson braced, Cole Palmer scored, Chelsea dominated in every fashion in this game here in London. The battle of two London teams goes to the Blues. and Chelsea grab a major 3 points as a team that had a lot of controversy around them entering the season are have only lost one of their first five. Now, granted, um, they do get to play a real test. They're playing Brighton, unbeaten Brighton on the next weekend. But yeah, good win against West Ham for Chelsea. Aston Villa, who went out and played Wolves, went behind courtesy of a goal from Mateus Cunha, but Villa never liked to go back down easily, and they went out and put not one goal in, not two, but three past Wolves in the 75th minute or later to get all 3 points at home against Wolves. Big win for Villa because that keeps them like in a good position. Fulham went out and played a team that can never win on the road, apparently, and that is Newcastle. Raul Jimenez and Emil Smith Rowe scored early on. Harvey Barnes tried to grab one back, but Reece Nelson, another Arsenal player, grabs a goal. He grabs the third for Fulham, and Fulham grab all 3 points against Newcastle. Southampton and Ipswich played the most Southampton and Ipswich result ever, a draw, which was a pretty boring 1-1. Well, it was gonna be, I thought it was gonna end 1-0, and that was that. But a Sam Morrissey for Ipswich had different ideas. 95th minute equalizer to grab the goal, uh, to level the score. Spurs played Brentford. Spurs grabbing a nice 3-1 win over Brentford. Brian Mbuemo scored inside a minute, but Dominic Solanke, Brennan Johnson, and James Madison had other ideas to go out and grab a result. Leicester and Everton played the most Leicester-Everton match possible. Everton took the lead, but if you've paid attention to the season so far, they don't like having leads, and they went out and lost. Well, you thought they were going to lose. They didn't. They got a point out of this game. Their first point, I believe, on the season. Uh, Ndiaye scored, but Steffi Mavididi grabs the equalizer to get Leicester a point and still be in a decent position to start the year. Liverpool and Bournemouth played out, and I actually nailed this game prediction. Because I said it was gonna make a 3-0, and it was a 3-0. Luis Diaz brace inside 3 minutes. In between the goals, 26th and 28th minute goals for Diaz, and Darwin Núñez grabs a goal as well. All 3 points for Liverpool. Finally, in the first and on Saturday, you had Manchester United and Crystal Palace. Pretty boring game actually. Palace looked pretty decent to be honest. United did nothing. Both teams weren't able to capitalize on anything, and the game played out at 0-0. The only 0-0 on the weekend. So those were Saturday's games. And if you want me to pick out a result that stood out to me the most, I'm gonna go with. I love the way Villa played those last 15 minutes against Wolves and went out and they needed to really make it late. But Ollie at 70th minute later, my mistake. You had Ollie Watkins and Ezri Konsa and John Duran all able to grab goals late to help secure the win after Wolves took the lead early on in the match. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. The resiliency playing at home, a place where Villa have really dominated over the last couple of seasons. They went out and got the result that they needed. And that was the most impressive thing to me this weekend from the Saturday games. Sunday, you had Brighton and Nottingham Forest kick off the doubleheader. Opened up with a Chris Wood penalty. Jack Hinshelwood grabbed an equalizer. Danny Welbeck is unkillable, apparently. He grabbed a goal for Brighton right before the half, but Ramon Sosa grabs the equalizer in the 70th minute. Morgan Gibbs White got sent off, and Brighton tried to go out and grab a third, but they weren't able to, and they draw their third game of the year already. So Brighton, who are unbeaten in their first five, have only won 2 of their first 5. So just something to keep an eye on as the season goes on. Fair play to Nottingham, who I thought were not winning this game, getting a point out of this. Go out there on the road at the American Express Stadium and getting a point. And then we had Man City Arsenal. Erling Haaland carved through the art. Savinho drew Calafiori out of position. finds Erling Haaland, robot golazo. He already has 10 this year, which is ridiculous. He had like 2 touches on the ball in the box after that, which is fairly impressive, and we'll tell you why in a moment. After some nonsense, more of it, a beautiful ball is played to Gabriel Martinelli on the wing. A pass back to Ricardo Calafiori, who puts in arguably the goal of the season so far. Puts one in the back of the net, grabs Arsenal an equalizer. And what did I say last week? Arsenal are still unkillable on corners, and they've done it again. Gabriel, the king of Brazil, as Arsenal fans like to proclaim, grabbed the go-ahead goal, and we thought it was probably going to be controlled by Arsenal. Unfortunately, Arsenal love to take part in some tomfoolery again. And this will probably be the Basel breakdown if I had to pick one that will go on Instagram. So pay attention to that in the future. If I do one, that would go out like I said on Wednesday because Leandro Trossard kicks the ball away after definitely hearing the whistle. Michael Oliver, who had a very poor game officiating, by the way, uh, gets gives the second yellow to Leandro Trossard after he allegedly denied, stopped a promising attack earlier on by barely grabbing his shirt, which I thought was kind of harsh. This one I thought was correct again. This is stupid, but this one was more clear than the first one with Declan Rice. So Leandro Trossard was an idiot, just like Declan was. So for the second game in a row, Arsenal concede and get a red card in the same match. So if you really look at the numbers, Arsenal, through their first 5, all right, have conceded 2 goals at the time of the red card. Both of them. After that happened, well, no. Arsenal have only conceded, this is the stat. Arsenal have only conceded goals in matches where a red card has been seen and eventually in a game, which made me new. And I knew this was going to happen at some point because if you paid attention to the Brighton match a couple of weeks ago, you didn't expect Brighton to really do anything in this game. You had to expect Man City to score multiple goals in this match. And guess what? Later on in the match, Arsenal were essentially, for those who don't watch soccer, may watch hockey, Arsenal are basically doing a penalty kill for around, I would say, 55 minutes. If you add in stoppage time of the first half and all the time took place in the second half, Arsenal are basically doing a penalty kill for 55 minutes. Unfortunately, because football is a very cruel game, a ball battle that was essentially left free for John Stones in the 98th minute after a scramble off a corner is tapped home and Arsenal draw Man City again. Not like a 0-0 like a lot of people were saying that was going to be the result today. Oh, from yesterday at the time of recording this. It is a very cruel and unforgivable draw. Now, what are my thoughts on this game? Because I think this is one thing that a lot of people wanted. Did Arsenal deserve to win the game? Not really. And if you look at the way Man City was playing the first half, for the first 20 minutes or so, all the time before the goal for Calafiori, Man City were dominating everything from possession, shots. They created multiple chances. Arsenal were thankful probably right before the Calafiori goal to not be 3-0 down already. Multiple chances for Savinho. They had multiple chances for Erling Haaland. You had multiple chances for other players in the midfield. Bernardo Silva, I believe, had a good chance. But the moment the game changed was the moment Rodri got hurt. Rodri, and this is the part where I also knew Arsenal were going to draw this game or drop points, was the moment that Rodri went down. Rodri, I believe, got I wouldn't say it was intentional what Arsenal was doing. And like the 2 seconds in, Kai Havertz is going to sprint for the ball and collides with Rodri. That one, you can make an argument that I think Michael Oliver actually did it right by just, I mean, blowing the whistle and stop. I think stopping play, giving a quick talk through to Havertz, giving a free kick and going on. Because I didn't really see any violent conduct there. Holland later on, I think should have gotten. This isn't me not being biased. This is me looking at the play from the eyes of a referee. Holland should have been booked for. I think for you could make an argument that Holland could have gotten sent off at the end of the match, throwing elbows and doing the shenanigans that he did at the end. That could be grounds for a red. I do think that's possible. Am I not shocked that they didn't give a red? Not really. Because I don't know in the situation you could have given a red card for this if Havertz's wasn't at least a yellow 2 seconds into the match. If you understand what I'm saying. Because was Holland's worse? Definitely. But at the same time, you can't book one and not the other. Which gets to my next point. If Jeremy Doku kicks the ball away and doesn't get a talking to, I don't understand how this is the second time now. And Arsenal are the only team to get a red card for that, a second yellow for this, which just makes this even more stupid. Barely get. I don't know if Trossard heard the whistle because he was continuing to play. I don't think he heard the whistle. So that's what made this even worse. Is that Trossard was continuing to play when he might not have heard the whistle. Red card comes out. Second yellow card comes out, which equals a red because 1 yellow plus 1 yellow equals a red if you understand football math. So a lot of things didn't go Arsenal's way, other than the banger from Calafiori and set pieces being inevitable. But I will say this, and I'll stop my rambling on this match and right now. Man City had multiple chances, but Arsenal's 5-4-0 kind of worked. There's two. I'll word like this. So hopefully you can pick up my audio. Essentially, let me see if this is being picked up. It is. They play two lines. The goalkeeper right here on this side. You have a back five, and then so the back line's here, and the four midfielders are basically in a straight line, right like 5 yards in front of the defense. So Man City couldn't get in between the lines. And it forced City to take a lot of shots from outside the box that weren't really on target. And you'll see by the numbers. City had like 33 shots or something. Arsenal did well enough to get a result, but City celebrating at the end, they were desperate at the end, but you knew they were going to score eventually. It was a heartbreaker for Arsenal. City rejoice as they grab a point. And now let's look at the quickly at the Premier League table after me rambling for 5 minutes on this game. City remain atop. No one has 5 wins from 5, which is actually very interesting. City are on top by 1 point over Liverpool and Villa. Arsenal are fourth, 2 points behind because they've drawn 2 matches. Also, for people who saying Arsenal bottled it, they were 10 men down and didn't allow really one real chance from City in 50 minutes down a man. They allowed more chances to Brighton than Man City. So I don't want to hear from that. Chelsea are 5th. Newcastle's in 6th. They're both tied with 10 points. Then you have Brighton, then Nottingham Forest, who are my big shock so far. Then you got Fulham, Tottenham, and United are in 10th and 11th on 7 points. Then you got Brentford, Bournemouth, a disappointing start from West Ham, who are only 1 win from 5. They're a team that might be off to a very slow start. And we got Leicester, Palace, Ipswich, Southampton, Everton, and the Wolves, with the bottom 6 all without a win so far and separated by 2 points. Because Ipswich, Crystal Palace, and Leicester have all drawn 3 times already. Draws galore has been a big theme from the bottom and the top of the league, actually, which is something to watch out for as we go on. Next up, we're going to go over to the NFL. We're not talking about the Monday games because I don't really want to spoil. I don't want to predict the Monday games. We already talked about the Thursday game with the Jets. Let's go over some of the biggest results from the weekend, starting us off with the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold, what a player. I said this last week. Like, I was shocked about the start from Sam Darnold. He looked so good. What is with this Minnesota team? I don't understand. Sam Darnold, 17 of 28 for only 181 yards, 4 touchdowns. Sam Darnold, one of his highest passing touchdown number games in his career. Big games, primarily from Aaron Jones, who's had over 100 yards on the ground and over 45 yards receiving. You had a big day for Justin Jefferson. You had Naylor catch a touchdown. Munt caught a touchdown. The defense was great, headlined by Andrew Van Ginkel and Cameron Bynum, who got an interception. Gruger Hill also got a pick. Shout out to him. They were really able to limit C.J. Stroud, who, yes, had more passing yards than Sam Darnold, but they really weren't able to do anything anywhere else. They weren't able to capitalize on anything. You still had good games from Stephon Diggs, who had 10 catches for 94 yards. Nico Collins and Tank Dell did their things. But I think the loss of Joe Mixon, who was out for this game, was more crucial than you would have thought. Because if they had some sort of ground game to complement the passing attack, this game would have been way different. The impact Joe Mixon had in the first 2 games, seismic. You wonder why the Texans are 2-0, because Joe Mixon had 2 great games to start the season. Let's look back at this. We'll start off, we'll go back to, actually, he was great week 1, but the Texans offense has been bad since Joe Mixon got hurt. Go back to week 1, because I thought he'd play week 2 and he didn't. Week 1, he had 160 rushing yards, and C.J. Stroud was able to do his thing with a comfortable pocket and beat up on Indianapolis. You have week 2, which the running attack was poor, the offense was bad, and they weren't. Joe Mixon had 9 for 25, but wasn't as impactful because they only ran the ball 9 times with him. They needed. I believe he got injured that game as well, which is why the rushing attack looked worse. But you see how much of that running game needs to be able to complement C.J. Stroud in order for this offense to flow like how it did week 1. They get an opportunity next week with Jacksonville, who we're going to be able to see on the Monday Night Football this week against the Buffalo Bills. That defense from Jacksonville has been a little bit suspect to start the year. I'm interested to see if the C.J. Stroud-led offense can bounce back. They still have a ton of great pieces on the offense, from Collins and Diggs and Tank Dell. But I think Cam Akers was their one back this week. He did nothing. So that's the one worry point for me, is who is going to be able to take over that running back spot if Joe Mixon continues to be out. Because he wasn't great. I'll tell you that much. You had arguably the worst game of the day, Eagles and Saints, a matchup that was pretty boring for the eye. Derek Carr fell back to the way he's supposed to be. Alvin Kamara was still all right, 26 for 87. You had a touchdown, first of the year for, I believe, for Olave, but no one really performed other than Olave and Kamara. That's shocking. Or is it? Because the Eagles showed how good this offense can be. You had Jalen Hurts, who had an early interception, but is able to rebound for 311 passing yards. Dallas Goedert, big game from him, and he's one of my stars of the week, if I had to make that a segment. 10 catches for 170 yards. Some of the biggest plays of the game weren't really yes, Saquon had 2 touchdowns, including a long one, I believe, earlier on. But Dallas Goedert helping the offense drive down late with a big catch late, extremely late in the game, inside 2 minutes, helping that offense get down for that final touchdown with Saquon Barkley. He was one of the biggest stars of the day. 10 for 170 for a tight end, unheard of, especially for a guy like him. He had a great game, especially that no A.J. Brown. He was the one who stepped up. I thought it was going to be Devontae Smith, but no, it was Dallas Goedert, because Devontae Smith, who still had a good game for Devontae Smith standards, 7 for 79. The problem is no one really stepped up other than those 2. So you're going to need another receiver or someone to step up other than, of course, Saquon. He was great. in the rushing attack. Defensively, you had Blankenship get an interception. CJ Gardner Johnson just causing problems. Nakobe Dean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Zach Vaughn had 9 tackles again. He's been killing it. They've did all the things that they had to do correctly, and that's why the Eagles won this game. They did make it really late, and I did not think the Eagles had it in them, but they were able to do it, and they went out and beat the New Orleans Saints. The New York Giants played the Cleveland Browns. I don't think the Giants even wanted to win this because did you see how bad they were offensively in the second half? Um, Daniel Jones was fine. This is actually a good game for Daniel Jones standards. 24 of 34 for 236 and 2 touchdowns. I'm sorry, chat. Very tired from last night. Yeah, Daniel Jones was great in the first half. Not great in the second half. I mean, they didn't score in the second half. I don't believe they did. Oh no, they had the rushing touchdown. I thought. Oh no, that was earlier on. They had a chance for a rushing touchdown late on. But they didn't take it. They got one down at the 1 that led to the 2-minute warning. Nice day for Devin Singletary, who went 16 of 65 and a touchdown. But the big story was Malik Neighbors again. And you can say, I already believe this, that Malik Neighbors is the best New York Giants wide receiver since Odell Beckham. And he's played 3 games. He's already made a bigger impact for this offense and made this offense better in like 2 games than Odell Beckham did since Odell Beckham. Can you name another receiver? Wandale Robinson? Let's look at the other receivers on this team. Darius Slayton, not Jalen Hyatt. Malik Neighbors is going to be the face of this Giants offense, if you like it or not. It will never be Daniel Jones. It shouldn't be Daniel Jones. It was the Giants' new number 1 receiving option, Malik Neighbors. And that, my friends, is how you draft a wide receiver. You don't go out and risk picking a quarterback because you're paying Daniel Jones all that money. You get your receiver. They pick the right one for their scheme in Malik Neighbors. They did it right. And it's paying off for them. After their first week disaster, they're showing out a little bit with Neighbors. 8 for 78 and 2 touchdowns. The defense stepped up when it needed to. You had Micah McFadden, Deontay Banks, Isaiah Simmons almost had an interception. Brian Burns causing madness off the edge. Dexter Lawrence. Giants defensive front are able to cause multiple fumbles from Deshaun Watson. I think they might, I don't know, they didn't force an interception, but there were multiple chances that they could have forced an interception. The mental lapses late on in the game, some of them might worry me as the season goes on, especially from the offensive side, because they really didn't show up in the second half of the offense. But they were able to get the job done and go out and beat the Cleveland Browns. Let's talk about the Browns, though, because they played terrible. Jerome Ford, 37 rushing yards. The rushing attack's never really been there for Cleveland, so I'll give him a little bit of a break here. He did have 33 receiving yards to back it up. Amari Cooper is the only player that showed up today, showed up yesterday at least. 7 for 86 and 2 touchdowns. Great game from Amari Cooper. Did anyone else want to play, though? Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Deshaun Watson. Watson had multiple fumbles. Jerome Ford had a fumble as well. They couldn't hold on to the ball. The defense for the Browns had so many issues early on in this game, going down 21-6? What was the score? 21-7 to one of the worst offenses, I believe, in the NFL, in the New York Giants. I don't understand how that can happen if you are the Cleveland Browns. That is a problem. They've won a game. Congratulations. You beat Jacksonville, which that just proves how bad Jacksonville is. Because that Cleveland Browns team couldn't beat the Giants It's a big worry point because I know some people were hyping the Browns. I know I didn't hype up the Cleveland Browns. What other games? We're taking too long. We gotta move through some of these games. You had a revenge tour from Malik Willis. He looked awesome. Will Levis looked terrible. Because that's just what happens. Willis did a job, 13 of 19 for 202. Big day on the ground for him as well. Josh Jacobs, who wasn't, I don't believe was as good in this game. Josh Jacobs only 14 for 43. Malik Willis 6 for 73 and a touchdown, leading the way for the Packers. Christian Watson was their leading receiver with 2 catches for 67. On the opposite side, Tony Pollard sucked. Will Levis was mid. DeAndre Hopkins had his first good game of the season, 6 for 73 and a score. Packers all over the Tennessee Titans. You had the Indianapolis Colts who got bailed out from bad quarterback play to go out there and beat the best performance so far by Caleb Williams. 33 of 52 for 363, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. There were so many chances for Chicago to win this. I wanted them to win it because they deserve to win it because Anthony Richardson looks really bad. He was 10 of 20 for 167 and 2 picks. The only reason the Colts won this game is failed opportunities from the Bears and Jonathan Taylor keeping them in it with 2 rushing touchdowns and over 100 yards. But another big story for me from this game was the first good game for the number 9 pick in the draft in Rome Odunze, who wasn't really involved in the first 2 games for the Chicago Bears squad, but at the same time, it's kind of like setting the tone for a big game from Rome Odunze. 6 for 112 and a score. That's not enough though, as the defense for the Colts holds on to beat the Bears 21-16. The Steelers went out and played a very uneventful game against the Chargers. Justin Fields is undefeated as Steelers starting quarterback. He threw a touchdown and a pick for 245 yards. Leading receiver for the Steelers today was Calvin Austin. Najee Harris was okay, but Justin Herbert was bad. The rushing attack from the Chargers, bad. The defense, okay, but yeah, nothing went right for the Chargers. They went out and lost. Andy Dalton leads the Panthers to a seismic. Oh no, sorry, we're not talking about Andy Dalton yet. We have one more 1 o'clock game. I forgot about Bo Nix because this game was so forgettable for me because Bo Nix had his first good game as a starting quarterback. Cortland Sutton, you had Tyler Batty and Bo Nix lead the way for the Broncos to come out here and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield was not great. Bucky Irving was not good. Chris Godwin was mid. And I mean, he did have a touchdown. That was the only touchdown as the Broncos won 26-7. Back to Andy Dalton. Maybe Bryce Young was the problem. 36 points, over 300 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns for Andy Dalton. What a story. I knew Vegas was going to be in trouble from the get-go, but my God, they were in trouble. Chuba Hubbard, another great game for him, over 100 rushing yards. You had Deontay Johnson finally show up in an 8 for 122 yards in his score. Chuba Hubbard had a receiving touchdown. Miles Sanders even had a touchdown. So you know this game is weird. Panthers come out and beat a Raiders team that has no idea what they're doing at quarterback anymore. Could they see a quarterback change from Gardner Minshew? I don't think they should. It's kind of a weird direction, but honestly, with the Raiders, who the hell knows what they do? The Tua-less Dolphins, and now the Skylar Thompson less Dolphins because Skylar Thompson got hurt. Tim Boyle sucks. The offense was invisible because they have no quarterbacks. The Seahawks had to do the bare minimum, and Zach Charbonnet, 2 touchdowns, leads the way for the Seattle Seahawks to walk over the Dolphins 24-3. You had the Lions and the Cardinals play a phenomenal game. Jared Goff and Kyler Murray were going at it. But David Montgomery's 105 yards and a receiving touchdown for Amon-Ra St. Brown were one part of the difference. You had Jahmyr Gibbs, who's not loading, is having a reception, but Jared Goff's 2 passing touchdowns leads the way for the Lions over the Cardinals 20-13. Other games in this session, you had the Dallas Cowboys fall to the Baltimore Ravens, despite the Ravens allowing 19 points. That hurt just like how the Ravens were trying to blow. My thumb is in pain. That's like how painful it was to watch the Ravens in the fourth quarter. Ow. I've never done that before on this desk. It's a wooden desk, by the way. But back to this game. Ravens offense, good for the first 3 quarters. Ravens defense, good for the first 3 quarters. Now, were they on the plane? Or were they trying to fly away back to Baltimore early? Because the fourth quarter, the Ravens offense fell apart. But they were led by not Lamar this week, but Derrick Henry. Finally, that's a good game for the Baltimore Ravens. 25 for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns, saving fantasy owners across the country, including myself. Lamar did rush for a touchdown as well. Rashad Bateman was the only receiver with over 25 yards to get a touchdown and more than 1 catch. You had Kolar and Aguilar go for over 30 yards. But the passing attack was just bad. Dallas's pass rush actually did things. Dak threw over 375 yards and lost. But the rushing attack from Dallas needs to improve. Whether it be from Rico Dowell, whether it's from Zeke, Deuce Vaughn, someone has to step up in the rushing attack. Jake Ferguson, great. Turpin, all right. CeeDee Lamb, kind of meh for CeeDee Lamb standards. But the Ravens almost blowing it's the biggest story, not the Dak Prescott 380 passing yards, or almost 380 passing yards. Unfortunately, all of them were overshadowed by Los Angeles, and as they went out and beat the now 1-2 San Francisco 49ers, who were without, to their credit, were out without CMC and Debo and lost. Jordan Mason, still doing good, 19 for 77. Jawan Jennings, who I traded in fantasy, and I kind of regret it, 11 for 175 and 3 touchdowns. He is the fantasy performer of the week, is Jawan Jennings. 11 for 175 and 3 touchdowns. He had over 45 fantasy points. He's the only player to catch a touchdown from Brock Purdy this week. You had Brandon Ayuk, who has been kind of mid to start the season after all the issues he caused during the offseason. The Niners defense was all right. They just couldn't do it late against the Rams, led by Matthew Stafford, and a big day from Kyren Williams, multiple touchdowns. And of course, Tutu Atwell getting a deep reception. Oh, and Kyren caught a receiving touchdown as well. All 3 touchdowns to Kyren Williams. He's the main difference maker in this game, along with the Rams defense in the end. Yeah, Jawan Jennings' career game failed for San Francisco as they go out and lose to the Los Angeles Rams 27-24. Finally, you had the Chiefs and the Falcons. I'll word it like this. Ref ball sucks. The Chiefs got bailed again. They shouldn't be 3-0. A lot of people believe they should be 1-2 like the Falcons. As Kyle Pitts I think it was Kyle. Was it Kyle Pitts in the last play? I thought it was Kyle Pitts or whoever it was. Got really unlucky in the back of the end zone. That's a penalty, and they missed it. Falcons lose by 5. Drake London, Darnell Mooney were good. Bijan Robinson had a touchdown, but he wasn't that great. Kirk Cousins was all right. Nothing crazy from Mahomes. You had Carson Steele. He was all right. Rashid Rice caught the eye of everyone. 12 for 110. So, dude is trying to pull some Scotty Scheffler type magic. He's one of the best receivers in the league statistically, I believe, right now, which is kind of nuts. Nick Bolton was great on the defensive side as the Chiefs come out and beat the Atlanta Falcons because no one wants to call a penalty on the Chiefs, but they want to call a penalty on the opponents inside the last minute. tough scenes. Uh, Games I'm not talking about today. Bills, Jags, because and Cincinnati and Washington. They're all Monday Night Football. Monday night. The show is not coming out on Monday, so game's the game. Uh, you'll see Dallas and the Giants possibly be broken down, previewed on Ball Knowers tomorrow. Major League Baseball is where we go next, and we'll talk about this briefly because there is a lot to preview. The big story of the week will be the wild card standings, of course. Is if you look at the wild card standings, all is up for grabs. You have New York and who's basically won the American League East. You had Cleveland, who's won the Central, and everyone else is trying to battle for the last spot. The big story, of course, is going to be Baltimore, who can clinch later this week. You had Detroit, KC, Minnesota, and Seattle all be battling for the third wildcard spot. And it's going to be really intriguing to see who goes out and grabs the third wildcard spot. The team you'll be probably wanting to watch out for is Kansas City, who's completely blown this, by the way. They were in prime position 2 weeks ago and have lost 8 of 10 and just have been bad and will now have to try to be bailed out by Washington because Kansas City plays Washington. Minnesota is playing the Marlins. So if you want a chance to go out and grab some wins and make some ground on Detroit, because who knows how they're going to be because they have more injuries in the pitching staff. Because they have someone making their, I think it's Jackson Jobe. Who was the guy they just called up? Is it Jackson Jobe? Yep, Jackson Jobe, their highest ranked pitching prospect, will be called up for the opener tomorrow, the day that this is going out, against the 78 and 78 Tampa Bay Rays. There are some teams that are kind of out of it, but are really out of it. Marlins, Boston. They're not really in it, but they say they're in it anyway. They're 78 and 78. But the Yankees, they can clinch top spot later this week. They do have to try and go out and beat Baltimore to do it. So this could get really crazy on Friday if Baltimore gets swept by the Yankees and KC, Minnesota, and Detroit all win their respective series. There is still a scenario where Baltimore will face Minnesota in a 3-game series for a wild card. That is absurd. I believe that's what the matchup is. Let's look at the Baltimore Orioles schedule. Because I believe they're not facing the Tigers. They're facing the Twins. Because they just played the Tigers a couple of days ago. They had the Yankees and the Tigers to finish, which isn't bad. And now let's look at the Tigers schedule. I don't really remember what it is. I know this is the Twins schedule. The Twins get to play the Marlins, so have fun with the Marlins. They play the Rays, and then they get to play the White Sox. So the Tigers actually are in prime position here because they didn't really blow it to Baltimore. They actually won at least a game against Baltimore. Royals, they get to play the Nationals, which is always a fun series. And they end it in the worst way possible at home to the Atlanta Braves. So really the team that's in major trouble here is the Royals, who really blew it against like everyone else the last couple of weeks because they threw themselves in this spot. And this opens the door for Minnesota and Detroit and maybe Seattle. I don't remember who they finished with. I know they're playing Houston to start. Their first pitch is actually right now. I don't know who they finished with. And Boston are out of it. Tampa Bay is sort of out of it. They have to win out and have a lot of things go their way to have a chance. National League wildcard. If you look at the divisions, 3 teams are in, 3 spots up for grabs, and in prime position and will likely clinch it later this week are the San Diego Padres. They get to play the Dodgers, though, which is the main issue. The Padres got to go out and play the White Sox. Speaking of the White Sox, we'll talk about them real quick. They will be playing literally the worst game ever on the day this goes out. at 6:40 Central Time, so 7:40 Eastern. Pay attention to that game because we could be seeing history if the White Sox lose. If the White Sox lose this game, they are the worst MLB team ever. They will have more losses than the expansion New York Mets. Just take that in for a second. That some team in the modern day will have more losses than the New York Mets. It's going to happen. There is no way they sweep their series and then go out and sweep the Tigers. It's not happening. Just as a pointer. Back to the National League wildcard. Padres are in prime position. They've won 8 of 10 and deserve to be here. The story is the final 2 spots. The 3 teams you'll be watching out for are the Arizona Diamondbacks, the New York Mets, and the Atlanta Braves. The sad part about a lot of this is, first for the Mets, we may have seen Pete Alonso's final at-bat as a New York Met at Citi Field in the regular season. It is a tough thing to really grasp, honestly, because I would have expected him to be a New York Met for life, but with free agency upcoming and him probably wanting the bag, who knows what the Mets do from here. They have won 7 of 10, and they probably should get him back, but I don't know at this point what he's going to do. Pete seems like a guy who would play for the Mets for the rest of his career. I hope he plays for the Mets for the rest of his career because the Mets, I feel like, are going to be buyers for the pitching rotation, which could really make this team a god squad. But who knows? Who knows? There's a lot of waiting on that note. To continue with the talk of the National League wild card, the teams to watch out for are the Mets, the Braves, and the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks play the Giants, a Giants team that's been really terrible, a team I really hyped up to make the playoffs this year, who are 77 and 79. They're like my Cardinals pick from last year. But the Mets and the Braves play each other starting on the day this goes out. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Truist Park in Atlanta, Georgia. That is the series and the main sporting event you should be paying attention to as a sports fan in the New York area for the next 3 days. As we get ready for the President's Cup, which I actually have to talk about that as well. Jesus, video is going to be long. I might just briefly bring it up on Friday. Go USA. Actually, no, it's the, what is it? The United States against the rest of the continents not named Europe. Yeah, they're playing at, aren't they playing in Canada as well? President. I'm just bringing this up because this just came to my mind now for some reason. Yeah, they're playing in Quebec, so it's gonna be freezing. Great call for putting in Quebec in September. Great choice. RNA and PGA Tour. Regardless, the biggest sporting event in New York for New York anything will be this. It will be the Mets and the Braves. The New York Mets, who start this series with Luis Severino against Schwellenbach. This series will determine the Mets' whole season. Because if they find a way to blow this before going to Milwaukee, a team that pitches really well, the Mets might be finished. The Atlanta Braves, we talked already about who they finished with. I just don't remember who it is. And we'll talk about the gap and everything in a moment. I know they play a team that kind of sucks. Don't they play the Royals? Isn't it the Royals? Yeah, they play the Royals to finish this season. The Mets, essentially what the Mets need to do, if the Mets win this series, it's probably over. And it starts on Tuesday with Severino, who I think will beat Schwellenbach, which would make the series to lead to 3. If the Mets win both series, they make the playoffs. It's that simple. The Diamondbacks, who I said play the Giants, this is going to be really tough. It's going to be a good series with them and the Giants. It typically is. And then they end with the Padres. So the Diamondbacks aren't safe in this either, by the way. There is a realm of possibility where the Mets and the Braves make it over the Diamondbacks. I think it's a very big possibility. You got Birdsong and Eduardo Rodriguez. So if you like runs, go watch Diamondback Giants on Tuesday. Should be a good series overall. But there is a slight possibility, hear me out, where the Mets, the Diamondbacks, and the Braves could all be tied at some point, and the Mets and the Braves could knock out the Diamondbacks somehow. So no one is safe other than probably the Padres, um, because they're like 3 games in front and they're 5 games from safety. 5 games safe in the safety zone with 6 games to go. They can clinch a playoff spot tonight on Tuesday, in the opener with the Dodgers, which I don't see happening, but who the hell knows? Dodgers, Phillies, who clinched the playoffs over the weekend. They can clinch the division this week. They get to play the Cubs, which should be fun. But it's all kicking up in the National League wild card. It's gonna be great, and it's something that I'm so excited to watch out for. Finally, for the Formula One Singapore Grand Prix, we had a very tearful Singapore Grand Prix for me, and we'll explain why at the end. Lando won, which I did not expect to happen. For once, he didn't drop a position after he took the lead. Uh, it was Lando from Max, Piastri, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, Sainz, Alonso, Hulkenberg, Perez, Franco Colapinto, 11th, Yuki Tsunoda, Ocon, Stroll, Zhou, Bottas, Gasly, Ricardo, with 2 DNFs of Magnussen and Albon. So, what are the biggest takeaways from the Singapore GP? Well, I will start with this. Lando really does have a chance. We do get a little bit of a break before we go to Kota in Dallas, but Lando really has a chance. It's awesome. Oh, actually, the race is in Austin. Why did I say Dallas? It's gonna be really, really intriguing how this ends. I mean, if you look back at the qualifying order, Lando started first, finished first. Max started second, finished second. Piastri started fifth, finished in third, which is great for Piastri, by the way. The biggest story was with Max, who like cursed and like has to do like got like the equivalent of a community service penalty, which I thought was really stupid. And he said it. So then he cursed in the media uh stuff on Thursday, and then he's didn't really respond to questions, which I think is a great move by Max, really smart. Um, but quickly on the race itself, um, Lando was great, won by 20 seconds. Not a lot of big stories, other than Leclerc making up 4 spots. This is where it's going to get really sad, and this is how we're ending the video. There's a good chance this is Danny Rick's last F1 weekend was in Singapore. There has been rumors that RB are gonna VCarb are gonna go to Liam Lawson as a replacement for Ricardo. I don't agree with that. Daniel, he got a fastest lap. He saved Max in a way. I thought they need a veteran on that team. The paddock needs someone like him, and the fans want him to stay in Formula One. It would be listen, he hasn't been bad like Logan Sargent bad. Understand that. He hasn't been Logan Sargent bad. So there's no reason to sack him. Maybe it's something with the Lawson contract, but if you're confirming Lawson, just confirm Lawson and give him a test. There's no reason that Daniel, if anything, Magnussen should be sacked and replaced with Behrman if you're using that logic. I don't understand it. But if it is Daniel's last Grand Prix, it's sad to see someone like him go. He 8 wins over 250 career starts. He's been in the sport longer than I've for a long time, starting with Red Bull, going to Renault, drove at McLaren. Like he won a race for that in that horrible McLaren car. And then McLaren sacked him for Piastri. Um, One of those guys that felt like a placeholder when he still had a lot of talent, but he still has more wins than Sergio Perez, just for reference. If this is at the end for him, it will be truly disappointing, and I think Red Bull are going to lose a good amount of fans because they all RB will at least of the V carb team because a lot of people like Daniel, and they need. I think the sport needs someone like him to be like a realm of possibility. And with the way he was emotional during the press conference, or he was talking to the press post race, brought a tear to my eye in all honesty because I've always been a fan of Daniel. He's shown his shown what he can do. That V carb car is not great. After I was hyping it up in the preseason, it would be really sad to see someone like him go. And if this is the end, it was really cool to watch Daniel race for all those years. For as long as I've been watching Formula One for the last, this will be my fourth full season. I've watched it for 5 years. Like it's been really cool to watch him race. Despite this being not the mood you'd expect, we'll see. We'll continue to follow the story with Daniel as we get ready for Kota in a couple of weeks. On that note, that'll be the end of today's episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the like button down below. It'd be really appreciated. Also be appreciated if you subscribe to the channel. Pay attention to the Instagrams. There might be a Basel breakdown of the red card. That would be at earliest on Wednesday. If it's not coming out on Wednesday, then you'll probably won't see it. There probably won't be one. It's just all a bit of a wait and see type of deal, and we'll see how it all goes. But for now, I'm Robbie Basel saying so long. Enjoy your week. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, everyone.